Welcome to New York's #2 sports show. We have a special guest on our episode today. We have Andrew from Fanatics and Analytics joining us. Welcome, Andrew.
Thanks, Derek. Looking forward to it. I've been a big fan of yours. I love the Rangers recaps. It's hard to find people that are really locked into the Rangers. And on YouTube, obviously you got a lot of diehard Rangers fans, but on YouTube, or podcasters, there's not a lot of people that are really locked into the Rangers. Watch your recaps, and I'm like, yeah, I agree. Yeah, that's a good point. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, yeah, I agree. Usually it's like, what is this person talking about?
Yeah, I appreciate that, Andrew. And we had kind of discussed this a little bit previously, but yeah, I feel like with the Rangers especially, as you alluded to, there's just not as much discourse on social media as there are from some of our other favorite teams, and it's kind of allowed, I think, for more opportunity for people such as yourself to come across the show, and it's a good time. I mean, I really enjoy it. Although Rangers this year, it's been a little bit of a struggle, which we'll get into. We're going to discuss all things Rangers, but yeah, I mean. What are your overall thoughts? Just jumping right into it. What are your thoughts on the season, and just we can just go from there.
I think I mentioned this to you when we were talking before yesterday. I think I feel as a diehard Rangers fan, and let me preface this by saying and I mentioned this to you, Derek. I'm someone that's been over the course of since really being a teenager. Back to going to Ranger games with my dad, I would have 10-game packages, 12-game packages, 15-game packages. So I would go a lot. I watch out of 82 games, the full game, probably like 75 out of the 82. And then, bits and pieces, the rest of the 7. So I'm really locked in, but I feel very emotionally disconnected to the team this season. I'm still watching. I'm still following them. But I don't think I've ever really got over the way last season ended. And I think it's just because I loved the team and I had such high expectations of that team. And it was just kind of like such an emotional letdown where if this team doesn't win, it's really hard to see that core coming back and winning in a different year. So that's my overall take. I feel very emotionally disconnected.
Yeah, and there's a lot that comes with that. Like, this team has had a couple of cracks at it, 2022 being the other one. And that one was kind of a more unexpected run, but still one nonetheless that was pretty much almost equal. I mean, they lost in Game 6 of the Eastern Conference Final in 22 and 24. And it's just so hard. There's a lot of things that have to go your way in terms of luck and just being healthy and things like that. And so, me personally, the Florida Panthers were the one team I didn't want to face. That all said, though, I mean, Rangers, there's a world in which they could have won that. And if they did, maybe they do beat Edmonton. So it is a bit disheartening. When you get that close, like, you just may not get there again, even in a best case scenario. And so I totally understand that. And then I think there's also something tangible to it as well with the exact core that we have, one that is getting older and one that, right. And the thing is, right, and I agreed with this move, but like, they've already traded away Jacob Trouba, which if you've listened to my episodes, I felt like he was a big reason for why they were eliminated against the Florida Panthers. So, but that said, you still have Mika Zibanejad, Chris Kreider, Artemi Panarin, and to me, I look at this team, and that is a big reason why. As much as all of them have really contributed a lot over the last 5+ years, more in the case of, Kreider has been here for a very long time. But I just feel like, it feels like it's kind of coming to an end here. Maybe not this season, but by the end of next season, it may look like a much different team.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think they're almost at the point right now where they're not going to do it. But if they decided to do some like small selling maybe a piece here and there, I wouldn't think it's outrageous. I don't think they're going to do it. I'm not necessarily advocating for it, but I think I wouldn't be like, oh my God, that's crazy. Like, it's reasonable.
Yeah, 100%. I would be for that. If there's a way that you can sell a little bit while still like I'm at the point right now where because I'm the type of fan where I'll fluctuate a lot. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like when the Rangers were doing really poorly, I was at a point where I was like, you know what, like losing really might be kind of advantageous in a lot of ways. Then I quickly went back because they did too well. So I was like, all right, I'm giving up on that. Let's just root for them to win. But I'm with you. There's a way to kind of balance that. And so I start thinking about people like Ryan Lindgren, who's a free agent at the end of the year. There's a couple of others where maybe you can sell rentals, get some future assets back in draft compensation, and find a way to still stay competitive.
I agree.
I agree, Andrew, though. I would definitely rather us be sellers than buyers, without a doubt.
Yeah, I think when I look at this team, and over the last few years, you brought up basically, let's just call it 2022 to this current roster. They've been even though I think you said in your last episode how their depth is actually pretty good right now. It's actually improved, but they've been a top heavy team. They've been very reliant on Igor, Panarin, Mika, Fox, Kreider, the last year plus Trocheck, Lafreniere, Trouba, Lindgren. If I'm forgetting someone, I don't know. Throw them out there.
No, you pretty much named it.
And I think that core was really good at their peak, but what we're seeing is the decline of basically what's happened. And in my perspective is this year is everyone's declined. Like the Mika Kreider, they haven't just slightly declined. They've like fallen off. Their performance has been really bad. Panarin's peak year last year was goal scoring. He's never been this amazing elite goal scorer. He's been a really great playmaker. So to expect him to repeat that was unrealistic. So you're having a more normal Panarin season, great player, great forward. But you have the terrible Kreider and Mika season. So you have Panarin reverting back to who he regularly is. And you had Trouba's continued decline. Lindgren just has taken so much hits. So it has just given the shot blocking, everything he has given to this team the last few years. It's taken a toll. So you're seeing all these guys, and Fox is probably playing with some sort of injury. He doesn't seem the same. All these things are happening at once. And for a team that's so reliant on this core group of players, they're not performing on that elite level anymore. And that's why this team struggles.
Yeah, very well said, Andrew. Totally. And that's where it kind of goes to Peter Laviolette as well, who by and large, I'm a fan of Peter Laviolette. He's not without his mistakes. And I feel like he needs to find a way, and this is where development comes into play. And, then we can question, like in terms of like, you can think about Kakko and current players in the team, as far as you need to find a way to move away from that, like you said, very heavily used, very important core. Even like with the power play, I understand that Kreider's bread and butter is net front presence and tip-in goals and things like that. And obviously Zibanejad's been in the power play for a very long time. But I just think whether it be getting Lafreniere on there, and that may not even be totally deserved. Lafreniere, I feel like, has not been as good as we saw him in the second half and playoffs of last season. But it's a matter of finding a way to get like the Will Coolies of the world. I'm trying to think of some other younger players, like getting them a little more exposure and a little bit more playing time, and kind of just, again, moving away from that older core. So it's and maybe there is no easy solution, but I think that I want to see a little bit more of the youth on the team. Even Zach Jones on defense. I feel like he's kind of had a raw deal as well. I understand that they've been better. But hey, like, would it be the end of the world? Like, forgetting about Lindgren for a second, right? Like, I understand that you're not going to scratch him, but even like Vakanainen, who's been good. He's been solid since that trade from the Ducks, but like, you couldn't sit him out like every now and then to like get Zach Jones in there. So I think the Rangers overall, I'm not thrilled with what they've done as far as player development. And so I think that that's going to lead to problems after this core is kind of hitting their expiration date. What are you going to have moving down the line after that?
Yeah, and I think we're on the same page. Probably assume we're not looking at a full rebuild. You can't do that with the Igor extension.
No, you can't. You can't, and you have Adam Fox locked in for a while. You have a lot. I mean, a lot of these guys, signed for long contracts. So, I mean, Zibanejad, I don't know how you're going to even be able to move off of that. You got 5 more seasons after this, and as well, Vincent Trocheck, I think too. So yeah, I agree. It's more of a retool. I'm not looking to blow the whole thing up. I do think that Peter Laviolette, unfortunately for him, just the way that it goes with these coaches with the short shelf life, I don't know how long he's going to last, and I don't know that's fair either, because this core has gotten now. I mean, David Quinn, we could put that in another bucket, but Gerard Gallant was let go, and I think going from Gallant to Laviolette had its benefits. But let's not forget that they were really good in year 1 of Gerard Gallant. It just seems like they're good in year 1 of a new coach, and then they get into these bad habits, lazy tendencies, and I think we're seeing that a little bit again here. To me, this reminds me a little bit of the 22-23 season, Gallant's second year, although this may even be worse than that.
Yeah, I think it is worse.
But again, just kind of like a player like Keandre Miller, I want to see more from him. It's like there's always been so much potential there, but he kind of just is what he is at this point. And he's going to be an interesting decision at the end of the season with him being a restricted free agent. Are they going to give him a longer-term deal? I kind of tend to think they probably will. They just gave Will Borgen a 5-year extension.
Yeah.
You figure Keandre Miller is going to get something, at least that. So a lot of important decisions ahead for Chris Drury.
You mentioned something that I like on my pod. We always talk about. I always compare sports fans and culture of sports to like just society in general. And you mentioned something about how the shelf life of NHL coaches, it's ridiculous how and then 2-3 years you're gone and then you go to a different team and it's musical chairs. And I think it's funny because it's just when you're so focused on, I want a result right now and you don't get it. Oh, let's fire the coach. Let's blame someone. Let's like this need to blame someone. And I find that I talk about it on my pod all the time where my co-host, his dad, will get mad. He'll blame the coach because the kicker missed a field goal. He'll blame whatever. He just wants to blame someone anytime someone loses instead of just talking about what happened and acknowledging it's not necessarily, you don't necessarily need to blame someone. And so you need to find a resolution. But yeah, they're gonna end up. They're gonna have a new coach probably next year.
Yeah, I think so. Laviolette he'll survive this season for sure, and then to me it'll be interesting to see what they do next season with him. I will say that when you do in the NHL, whether it's right or wrong, when you do get these firings, it does seem to spark up a little bit of a run. And again, I'm with you. He to me is not the problem here, but I guess just in terms of different sports, in the NFL, when coaches are fired mid-season, it doesn't tend to have the effect. There's just so much infrastructure with coaching in the NFL. Where the NHL, it seems like you can do it to get the boys going a little bit. But I think with this, I don't think this core deserves that. And I think we're past it. They got Gallant fired.
Yeah.
At this point, players should be traded away before they make a coaching change.
How many coaches? I was just going to ask you, how many coaches now is this core on? This is
I'd
their
say
fourth
3.
Coach? 3? Yeah, three.
I'd say 3. Quinn.
Yeah,
Gallant,
Quinn was at the very beginning.
Yeah, Quinn was there. Yeah, Quinn was there. Because when I look at this team, I think I talked about it in a previous episode. I mean, you already had Kreider and Zibanejad, but really, the nucleus of this team really came to be, for the most part, in the 1920 season, which was right before COVID.
Yeah.
And that was Adam Fox's rookie year. Artemi Panarin, that was his first year in the Rangers.
Trouba's first year, right?
Jacob Trouba's first year as well.
Yep.
So a lot of the key players, that was Kakko's rookie year too. And then next year you get Lafreniere and Keandre Miller and so on and so forth. So, this has been the Ranger team for the most part for a while now. And to your point, going back to it, like that's where last year's is a bit demoralizing. Not that I felt like the window was, it's weird. Like I never felt like, okay, the window is closed on this team.
I didn't think that.
Like, but yet, like when you get that opportunity, you got to take advantage of it. And they didn't.
What are your thoughts on Igor this year? Obviously, he had that injury. What are your thoughts, though? Well, I mean, what do you think?
Streaky. Very streaky. But I feel like was very good to start, then struggled with the rest of the team. And maybe it's somewhat team dependent, but Igor's been able to overcome that. And then I think overall, there's been, lately he's been a lot better. So I wish that there was a little more consistency to his game. I still think that when push comes to shove, especially in the playoffs, like he is their best player. And that's kind of been a Ranger thing. And the Rangers have, if nothing else, they've had a lot of good goaltending in there.
It's actually kind of incredible how they went from Lundqvist to Igor. It's pretty amazing,
kind of crazy. And then even going back like Richter, kind of before that as well. But even more so, like Lundqvist to Shesterkin is,
because it was like a direct Lundqvist to Shesterkin, which is pretty incredible.
Exactly.
Like the Richter to Lundqvist, there was a bunch of time.
Yeah,
like
for sure. Little Mike Dunham. Exactly. Yeah, it was not quite direct. And also Richter's later years were like very injury prone. So yes, but going from Lundqvist to Shesterkin with a little bit of like Georgiev mixed in, which is really is huge. And I don't know. I find myself, I'm not super critical of Igor typically, but there are people that they really are. And I understand the 11.5 was the cap hit for the contract for Igor. I think it was.
Something, over 11.
I understand that people are upset about that in terms of, because he's a goalie.
Yeah.
And it is, it kind of sets the benchmark. That all said though, like you got to have him. You do. Like he's been so good again in the playoffs. Like he had that rough stretch against the Penguins in 22. Yeah. After that, I mean, I could think that Carolina series unbelievable.
I was going to say that Carolina series, they would have just gotten destroyed if it wasn't for him.
Oh no, absolutely. Even though they lost to Tampa, I thought he was great there. Even though they lost to the Devils in 2023, I thought he was their best player by far. And then last year, I mean, just really solid all the way through. So, but Igor this year, as far as expectations, I'd say slightly below average overall. But he always finds a way to kind of get to his typical numbers when the season ends. He had that one outlier where he was amazing in 2022 where he won the Vezina and he was a Hart Trophy finalist. So he's not going to reach those numbers, but you'll typically find him, I think in between 915 to a 920 save percentage. And I'm confident that he'll get there again. But I just wish he was not as streaky.
Yeah, he's typically towards the top in expected goals.
Yes.
Yes. Or below expected goals. So we can kind of, I guess, maybe talk about the where they stand and what we think about them this season. And because I'm going to bring this up, and I just think that having Igor makes me look at the standings and say, all right, the Rangers are 4 points out of a second wild card spot, right? There's 4 teams ahead of them. There's like 2 or 3 teams like right behind them. So the odds are really stacked against them. But what they have with Igor is they have the ability to rattle off 6-7 straight wins. Igor can go through a stretch where he's just wins the Rangers 6 or 7 games in a row, and all of a sudden they leapfrog everyone and they're in the second wild card spot. That's the advantage that Igor gives them. And I do expect at some point he's going to go through. I mean, he just had a recent really good stretch, but I expect him to go on a stretch where he carries his team. So I guess, even this recent stretch that they had that they were playing well, do you feel like that was Igor, or is that really just more team?
I think it's kind of cut in half. I think when it first happened, like when they first had their, let's call it like the 7-0-3 stretch or so, at first it really wasn't so much Igor. In my opinion, it was actually a weird combination of like Quick and Deming early on. But then I would say towards the tail end of it, and this is what ends up leading them to their problems. It reminds me of when they were 12-4-1 to start the season, where the beginning of that stretch, they were actually playing good hockey. Then it was more Igor. Like, I thought that the Senator game, the Rangers were brilliant. Like that was probably maybe their most complete 60-minute effort of the season. But then the Flyer game, despite the fact that the final score was lopsided, Igor was very good. And so then like that's when the bad habits kick in, I feel like. But to answer your question, I feel like it wasn't so much Igor reliant at the beginning, but then it was at the end. I thought against Columbus, he was fantastic.
Oh yeah, he was.
And then I'm trying to think, even these last two losses.
He let one bad one in the other night, last night.
Yeah, he on the second goal, I thought, he over pursued.
You said that, yeah, I agree completely.
And left it wide open there. But made a lot of good saves as well. So I think that, he's obviously a key component. They're going to ride him, a long way here. You're probably only going to see Quick. Again, as long as the Rangers are in the playoff race, which remains to be seen, they might drop out down the road. But as long as they're in it, I think they're going to really use a lot of Igor, except for back-to-back games.
Do you think he has a stretch in him that elevates the Rangers really like legitimately into that race?
Yes, and that was kind of the reason why, as far as like maybe it being better if the Rangers were to lose, in my mind, as long as Igor's healthy, like it's just not going to happen. Like he's too good to the point where they're not going to, go on too long of a losing streak.
You can't tank with Igor. He's too good.
No, you can't. So I do think that he has it within him. Look, could he then, if they make the playoffs, could he in theory tire out by then? I guess that's in play. But I think he definitely is geared up. And the thing is too, there's going to be a 2-week break coming up. So coming out of that, he'll be energized. And I think that he could put them on their back, whether that's best for the long run. Like, as far as like, you hope Drury can kind of see through that. Right. But we've seen him stand on his head plenty of times before for long stretches of time. And I think he can do that again.
I haven't paid any attention to anything about that tournament that's starting when does it start again? A few days, right?
February 12th.
Okay. So a couple weeks. Yeah. Is Russia not in it?
Yeah, they're not in it. It's just 4 countries. It's USA, Canada, Sweden, and Finland.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. It takes a lot of, right, because you have like, Czech Republic, Slovakia, some other countries that have really good players that aren't involved. So it kind of cheapens it a little bit. But I guess it's better than nothing, and probably better. I mean, the All-Star game has been kind of falling flat a little bit lately. So, this
is new. Yeah, it's fun.
It's new. Yeah, I'm curious to see the coverage and the engagement it gets, and really looking forward to next season with the players going back, the NHL players going back to the Olympics for the first time since 2014. That I'm very much looking forward to. So at least this gives you a little sneak preview of what that could look like.
It's also good that Igor gets some rest.
Exactly. I'm curious to see, and Panarin, exactly. I'm curious with Kreider. Like, it's a little embarrassing. The fact that he's on the team, it's kind of a little embarrassing. Maybe that's not the right word.
It made sense at the time, though.
It did make sense at the time, but now, like, I'm not sure what you've heard, but like you hear murmurs like, he's dealing with like a back. Again, I don't know what to believe, but it'll be interesting to see. I think he'll be in it, but like, could he back out? I'm curious on him to see if he might decide that. Like, for the Rangers, it's probably better. Because to your point about Igor getting rest and Panarin, there's certain players like as a fan, it's going to be fun to watch, like an Adam Fox and a Vincent Trocheck on USA. But really, for the betterment of the team, probably the less players is probably better. But
it's kind of like the World Baseball Classic,
right? True.
Those teams definitely don't want their players playing, but you can't tell them no.
Right, exactly. And I think that for a guy like Kreider too, like he kind of missed out on the chance to represent Team USA in kind of a big tournament, if you want to consider that, that. So I'm sure he'll probably, join. And, if he doesn't, then it probably tells you that he really is dealing with something.
Well, the team's probably better off without him at this point. They thought they were getting a really good player.
Yeah, definitely. And there was, and I'm pretty sure there was a lot of really good people that didn't make it that have a different skill set, like a Cole Caulfield and like a Tage Thompson. But I think they saw Kreider as, and that's probably how they'll utilize him, as a special teams guy. Like, he'll probably be a fourth line. Look, he's probably going to get minimal. I mean, especially when you look at that roster, there's a lot of really talented and good forwards. So I guess he'll get power play and penalty kill time.
Yeah. I mean, I
kind of look at him. He's like their 13th. He's really kind of like their 13th forward, I would say.
And he's the Rangers' like third forward.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I mean, how brutal was that last night? Trocheck, he put a little bit of sauce on it, but like Kreider, it's just an easy tap in and he just flubbed it. It's just, I feel like we've been getting a little bit of that lately with him. And the last thing on Kreider is, I know he's never been much of an assist guy, although I think in recent years he did like up that, like much more than before. He only has 2 assists on the season. And I think he's only missed maybe like 5-6 games at most. That is crazy.
It's pathetic.
For a guy playing that much to have 2 assists, and that's as much as like the Brodzinskis and the Rempis and like Victor Mancini might have more than. It's just crazy. It's nuts.
It is. I think I would agree with you. I never viewed him. He's never been a great passer. He never had great vision, never had great touch. But I mean, just being around the net, you get assists, Right.
Exactly. Exactly. But yeah, like with him, just you watch him and it looks so much worse than it has in the past. Right. Just something is, and again, like it could just be wear and tear, whatever it is. It's not good. And I almost feel like, especially with how much they use him being out is kind of addition by subtraction. I hate to say that, but I kind of feel like right now it feels that way a little bit.
Yeah, I've heard you say that. A couple, I don't know which episode of yours you said it, but
yeah.
I agree. I mean, it's really sad. It's unfortunate because I'm sure you really like Kreider. How could every Ranger fan likes Kreider?
Oh, of course. Whether it be because of longevity or what else, like, you look at all the historical statistics of the team and Kreider's up there and almost everything. And it would be great to see him finish out his career as a Ranger, but like it's very rare for that to happen. You don't see that much anymore, and it'd be cool if it did, but it's going to be tough at this point, I think.
It's very uncommon. It really is. I mean, think like Brian Leach didn't.
Exactly, which broke the Leach thing broke my heart that it didn't. But right, Lundqvist
kind of did,
but kind of did. But he was going to sign with the Capitals, and then a health issue kind of prevented that. Right, like Henrik Lundqvist, who is like basically Mr. Ranger for the last couple of decades. He was very close to playing another uniform. So it's very, very tough for that to happen. But so I want to give it its proper respect, right? Because I feel like I could be very critical of Ryan Lindgren, but you put it very well before that he's given his body to the team. Like, I don't want to let's not forget that as well. Like, right, in a day-to-day situation where I'm doing these episodes and I'm talking about it in the moment, but I don't forget the fact that, Lindgren is a heart and soul guy that has blocked a ton of shots and has really just been really a warrior in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
That said, he's kind of hurting the team a bit, and I don't blame the person. It's just what it is.
Yeah, Lindgren was their defensive anchor for so many years.
Yes.
And this is a great partner with Fox. It allowed Fox to do his thing, play more freely.
Yeah, I mean, that was one of the best. I mean, look, for a while there, that was a very, very formidable pair. And now I feel as if it's time that they go in a different direction where you find a different pair, a different defensive partner for Fox. And I think that this will probably be Lindgren's last season with the team. I just don't see the avenue to them re-signing him. I just don't see it. So it'll be a matter of, is he traded at the deadline, or does he walk and sign elsewhere after July 1st?
Yeah, I would trade him at the deadline. I don't think they're going to. I think they're going to try to put this together, make a run here. And wouldn't it be hilarious that out of all years, they sneak into the playoffs and this is the year they made a run. Like I don't expect it to happen, but
That would be great. That would be great, right?
It'd be such a hockey thing.
I didn't think about that, right? Like but like my brain tells me no. Like the Florida Panthers, they won the President's Trophy, I believe, in maybe 2022.
22.
They get knocked out in the second round by the Lightning. And then in 2023, they make this sort of like last ditch end of the season run, sneak into one of the last playoff spots, and then lose in the Cup final to Vegas.
That's right.
So that would kind of be your parallel.
Yeah.
If you're feeling optimistic.
Very good comp for sure. I'm not feeling optimistic. I'm just
neither am I, but it would be nice. And I'll say, I've said this too. I think that if the Rangers got in the playoffs, it's probably still not one of the teams. Like if you're one of those top teams in the East, the Rangers, they're not a team that you'd want to see because of the playoff experience and because of Igor. Exactly.
Because I really don't think it's anyone else other than Igor, because Igor can steal a series.
Exactly. And so that's the thing. I'm not like, as much as Carolina does well against us in the regular season, you put that matchup out there again in the playoffs. Like if it's Igor versus like Freddie Anderson or whoever else it's going to be, Kochetkov, like there's a confidence there that they're going to find a way to get it done. He just locks in big games. So there's still that hope, but this is not a team that's going to make a cup run. Like I hope I'm wrong. I hope I eat those words, but I just don't see it.
No, I don't either. I'm just throwing it out there. It'd be funny. It'd be amazing, but yeah, no, I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. I just look at the standings and I see all these teams ahead of them. It's not even that these teams are better than them. It's just that
I know the numbers the math isn't great. What's really going to be key is there's some key head-to-head matchups. You got a couple coming up with the Bruins. You have 3 more games with Columbus. You have 3 more games with the Islanders. Like there's a lot of, the Rangers, if nothing else, they have done well. Rangers really struggled against top competition, which is not a good sign. But against the ones that are near them, they've done pretty well against. And so that is probably their path in with, really just a couple of spots open. So, but yeah, there's like 7 or so teams that are vying for about 2 wildcard spots.
I see. Yeah, and I saw that they're closer to last place in the conference than they are to third place in the division or something like that.
Yeah, I was hoping. Yeah, there was a chance maybe the Rangers could catch the Devils, and it's like, nah, that's not good. That's not going to happen. But
no, they're 10 points behind them now. But yeah, it's no.
Yeah,
two games at hand, but no, that's not happening.
Yeah, I don't think so. And look, New Jersey, I hate to say it, they're one of our biggest rivals, but the Devils, they're better than the Rangers. I mean, I think that's why last year was an opportunity to take advantage of that, because I left that series with New Jersey in 2023 thinking Devils are on their way up. And then last year, it didn't work out for them at all. And that was, a situation to take advantage of, because I think that the Devils are far from a perfect team and they're dealing with their own injuries. But I think that they got some good components and a lot of things that could make them a dangerous team for the coming years.
Yeah, last year they just had a horrible goaltending.
Yeah, awful. Yeah, really, really bad. That basically, prevented them from getting in. Yeah.
You said you grew up on Long Island?
Yes.
So for you, were the Islanders the biggest Rangers rivalry?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the Islanders had a lot of bad years, so I think it's an interesting discussion, because I think with Rangers fans have a lot of rivals. I mean, I think it depends on who you ask. I mean, Devils could easily be the number one for sure.
For me, it was always the Devils.
It was the Devils, right?
I grew up
you being
Jersey,
from Jersey, yeah. It just, for me, yeah, it's everything being equal, it's the Islanders, based on the fact of just you want the bragging rights, with friends and things like that. So yeah, it's definitely them, but there's a lot of close ones after that. I mean, Penguins, Flyers, could go on and on as far as teams that were just really unlikable.
Yeah, for me, it's definitely the Devils, because of being from New Jersey, but also because I've been at Rangers elimination games. By the way, have you ever been to a playoff game where the Rangers were eliminated?
I've been to a lot of I've been to a good share of Yankee and Giant games were eliminated. For the Rangers, I'd have to think about that. I don't know that I actually have been to a Ranger elimination game. Have you? Like a game where they were eliminated. I've been to ones where they saved off.
Where they potentially, So I've been to a few, and I was going to say it's made me not want to go to playoff games for any of the teams I like, where there's a potential elimination game. I just won't go. It's such a bad experience. So I forgot. I'm blanking on the year, but I think it was the year out of the lockout, like Lundqvist, Yager, Rennie, where they got swept by the Devils.
Yes. I was actually at game 1 in New Jersey for that one where the Rangers got killed.
Yeah. So I was at game 4, the elimination game. Now, it was a different feeling because it was like, oh, wow, they were surprising this year. They had this rookie goalie. There was a lot of excitement about the future. So it wasn't this like doom and gloom feeling, but I just remember, and what year is this? 2006?
Yes, that was the 2006 season. Yep.
I'm like 14, 15 years old. I think you're probably about the same.
Yeah, about the same. 15.
And the memory I have of this Devils fan next to me at MSG, as everyone's chanting like MVP for Yager as he's like skating off because he had such a great year that year. And then this Devils fan is chanting MRI, MRI. Because like Yager was like limping off hurt.
Yeah.
I was just that memory sticks in my mind. And then one of the later Lundqvist years, I think they lost to the Devils in game 6 in overtime.
Yeah, Adam Henrique got the OT winner in 2012. Yeah, I
was at that game, and that vision of like Lundqvist like sprawled on the ice as the puck goes in, and I was like high up but behind the goal when Henrique scored. Oh my God.
Yeah, when you brought that up, that's where my head went. I was like, oh, I hope he wasn't at the 2012 game 6. Oof, yeah, that was bad, especially because that one, that was a magical season, really one of my favorite ones. But I think it's a good place to wrap. Yeah, me too. Yeah, that was just a hardworking, likable bunch under John Tortorella. But we'll wrap it up here. Really, really appreciate you coming on, Andrew.
Of course.
And again, where can the audience find you?
Yeah, so Spotify and YouTube and Instagram as well. Fanatics and Analytics. The name is Fanatics and Analytics, New York and Philly, but you can just find us under Fanatics and Analytics. We talk New York, Philly. My co-host is a diehard emotional sports fan, spews nonsense. I'm reserved and analytical New York fan. He's a Philly fan. A lot of clashing, a lot of back and forth, a lot of funny stuff, and we have a lot of fun with it.
That's awesome. Yeah, it was a pleasure having you on, Andrew. Hopefully this will be the first of many. And yeah, look forward to talking to you in the future.
Derek, thanks for having me on. Let's go Rangers.